Ayotunde had always dreamed of being a model. From the moment she'd seen her first magazine cover as a child, she knew what she wanted to become. Tall, graceful, and effortlessly beautiful, just like the women she saw in those glossy pages. But life had not been kind. Despite her dedication, despite the countless hours spent perfecting her craft, the doors of the modeling world remained firmly shut. She wasn't tall enough. Her features were too round. Her skin too dark. Rejection had become as familiar as the air she breathed. But Ayotunde was not the type to give up. Every no only fueled her desire. She was determined to prove them wrong. She spent long nights before the mirror, practicing her walk, perfecting her poses, learning how to apply makeup with the precision of an artist. But no matter what she did, she felt invisible, ignored in a world that valued only the flawless and the rare. Then one rainy evening, as Ayotunde scrolled through her phone in the dim glow of her bedroom, she saw something that caught her eye. It was an ad for a modeling agency, Ifeo Lauren, a name that made no sense to her. It promised the impossible, the ability to transform anyone into a star, to make them perfect, flawless, desirable. She clicked the link out of curiosity. The website was sleek, mysterious, and filled with images of women who seemed almost unreal, so beautiful they looked like they belonged in another world. But there was something haunting about the faces, an eerie perfection that made Ayotunde's stomach twist. She scrolled down, reading the testimonials. They spoke of women who had risen to unimaginable heights, achieving their dreams beyond their wildest expectations. But the cost was steep, something intangible, something only those desperate enough to succeed would understand. Ayotunde didn't think twice. She was done with rejection, done with waiting. If this was her only chance, she would take it. With shaking hands, she filled out the form. The next day, she found herself standing before an unmarked building. There was no sign, no hint of what lay inside. The air was thick with incense as she entered. She followed a narrow hallway that led her to a small, dimly lit room where a tall woman waited. Her name was Erelu, and her eyes seemed to pierce right through Ayotunde as though she could see her soul. Erelu smiled, her lips curling slightly as she spoke. "I can make you perfect, Ayotunde. I can give you everything you've ever wanted. But remember, perfection is not free. Are you willing to pay the price?" Ayotunde's heart raced. She barely understood the question, but her desire for success was so powerful it drowned out any rational thought. Without hesitation, she nodded. The transformation began almost immediately. Over the course of days, Ayotunde's body changed. Her skin became smooth and luminous, her features sharpened, her hair thickened and grew longer, as if touched by some divine force. The weight she had always struggled to lose simply melted away. Her body was now the ideal of beauty, the epitome of what the world wanted to see. The world took notice. Within a week, she was booked for runway shows, magazine covers, endorsements from brands she had only dreamed of. Ayotunde was suddenly a star, the face of perfection. Her social media exploded with admiration. People from all over the world followed her, eager to see her next look, her next appearance. But the more attention she received, the more disconnected she became from herself. She was praised for her beauty, but each compliment felt hollow. There was nothing left of the girl who had once dreamed of success for the sake of her own happiness. She had become an image, a figure, a thing to be admired. Nothing more. And then, one evening, while preparing for another photo shoot, Ayotunde glanced into the mirror. What she saw froze her in place. Her reflection wasn't hers. Her face was twisted, distorted. Her eyes were darker than they had ever been, and her smile was cold, menacing. The woman in the mirror seemed like a stranger, someone she didn't recognize. She reached out, trying to touch her face, but the reflection moved before she did, as though mocking her. Panicked, she turned away, but the image wouldn't leave her. It lingered in the corners of her mind, in her thoughts. The more she tried to push it away, the more it haunted her. She was no longer just beautiful. She was something else, something that terrified her. That night, she dreamed of Erelu. The tall woman stood before her, her eyes glowing in the darkness. You wanted perfection, Ayotunde. But do you understand the cost? I don't. I don't want this anymore, Ayotunde whispered, her voice cracking with fear. Erilu's smile grew wider, colder. Perfection is a curse, my dear. The more beautiful you become, the more you lose of yourself. You wanted to be the best, but now you are nothing. The next day, Ayotunde woke with a heaviness in her chest, the weight of her decision crushing her. She had lost herself in the pursuit of an unattainable dream. The world saw her as flawless, but inside she felt empty, consumed by the very beauty that had once been her salvation. As the invitations to exclusive events piled up, as the offers to appear on runways and in advertisements continued to flood her inbox, Ayotunde felt herself slipping further away. She had become a prisoner of her own success. The person she used to be, the girl who wanted to change the world with her smile, was gone, replaced by something hollow. It was at the peak of her fame, as she stood before a mirror one last time, preparing for the biggest fashion gala of her career, that Ayotunde finally understood. She had become the very thing she had always feared. She had let ambition consume her, and in doing so, had lost the joy of simply being herself. With one final look at her reflection, Ayotunde walked away from the world that had made her into a symbol of unattainable beauty. She chose to reclaim her life, even if it meant giving up everything she had worked for. The perfection that had once seemed so tempting was now the very thing she sought to escape. Years later, Ayotunde became an advocate for self-acceptance. She traveled the world, speaking to young women who, like her, had once been driven by the desire to be perfect. She shared her story, warning them about the dangers of chasing an ideal that was never meant to be theirs. In the end, Ayotunde found peace, not in perfection, but in the freedom of accepting herself, flaws and all.